has it been? And after you finish, I'm going to actually conclude with you on a last question, which is slightly unrelated, but I'm itching to ask.
You know, first of all, let me also tell you my full sympathies with Manisha.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
she actually has to sit through and watch so many of that primetime circus. I haven't switched on a TV primetime circus in my house since 2017, even when I was anchoring shows myself, and I can take pride in saying I never did that circus. So which also meant that my salary has never seen an inflation since 2017. But I am happy. मैं सुकून की जिंदगी जी रही हूँ. You know, so you make these choices. There are two points that I'll just quickly talk about. I know the timing is limited now. One, as Manisha said, we don't talk about the pay divide, pay gap and all. I've actually had male editors come up to women, अगर salary की बात कर रहे हैं, they will tell them, तुमको पैसे क्यों चाहिए? तुम तो single हो. तुम्हारी क्या जिम्मेदारियां हैं? You've touched दुखती रख. And then they'll come and again say, अरे आपको पैसे क्यों चाहिए? आपका तो husband इतना अच्छा कमाता है. Correct. Like one tight slap, man. How does that have anything to do with my husband, my family? It is a professional contract that I'm talking to you. For my work. These deeply ingrained inherent biases are there. You know, I teach an elective at the Kautilya School of Public Policy, and I do conversation series for Geetam University. We recently had the IG CISF Southern Sector, Anjana Sinha, come in for this town hall interaction. One of these students, and it's a progressive campus, one of these young students stood up and asked her, ma'am, how do you balance your work life? And she said that, you know, I like that you asked me this question, but it also talks volumes about the inherent bias in you, because if this was a male officer sitting on stage, you wouldn't even have thought about asking this question. Because there is that underlying assumption that either that man is not going home and helping in the work chores, or, you know, there is no question that everything is smooth about his life. So yes, there are biases there. Yes, as a woman journalist, no, I'm one of those journalists who has belief that if you're hardworking enough, you have to struggle. There are those coterie cultures within newsrooms, and I have worked with Hindi newsrooms. There was a time earlier when I came in where there were clear divides. You know, the English newsrooms would be sophisticated and elite. The Hindi newsrooms would be rabble-rousers. A lot of civil services aspirants who could not make it to civil services would come then with all the residue gyan into the newsrooms and make life hell for everybody around. But the point is that you somewhere have to draw those lines, because if I'm traveling to Paris to cover the terror strikes, to Bangladesh to cover a hostage crisis, to cover floods in Uttarakhand, I cannot think from a male and female prism at that time, because frankly speaking, those assignments are equally physically dangerous for men and women. And today, if you see the kind of legal intimidation to harassment that journalists face, it's not about male and female. There are so many male journalists who are in jails, who are languishing in jails, who haven't walked out in freedom, who haven't even been granted bail. Their bail trials have turned into proper incarcerations for them. So these are the harsh realities. If you are somebody who's standing by your principles, who's asking questions to those in power, speaking truth to power, be prepared that whether you're a male or female, the government, the agencies will come after you. They're not going to look at you through the gender prism. But having said that, I think one of the biggest problems that I find with newsrooms also is the manal culture. I made it a point of my career for the last 15, 16 odd years since when I found my voice that I would not have a manal on the show. And for me, a show where you have 5 male anchors, 5 male guests and panelists sitting, and just 1 woman anchor, that is an equal tokenism. 80-85% of the time, I'm glad to say, I succeeded in my battles. I chose to fight the battles. There were days when I couldn't win those battles. Yes, I had to do it with a panel of men. But people are not even trying. There are informed expert voices out there. You need to call up think tanks. You need to go through some of the numbers of organizations. Ask them. There are women lawyers. There are women actors. I mean, there are women everywhere, and not just women. We are here to talk about gender inclusivity. So you need to look at the queer community, look at LGBTQI. There are informed opinion voices. Just because they choose to live their life in a certain way, it doesn't take away from their expertise. And it does not mean that you should not even try to look for these voices, because, you know, as you mentioned in a question, talk journalism is the cheapest form of journalism, which is why you see so much of talk journalism today, because it's much easier to invest. I can see Ghanshyam ji here. Day in and day out, he has to sit in on a panel where आओ कांग्रेस के स्पोक्सपर्सन ले आते हैं, बीजेपी ले आते हैं, सपा ले आते हैं. With all due respect to all you do, and it's hard work. It's not easy of your head to be heard in those rabble-rousing panels. But it's the cheapest form of journalism. People don't want to invest anymore in good journalism where people have to go on the ground, investigate, do a story. And that's where independent platforms like a Quint, a Scroll, a News Laundry today are actually doing the more important work, which basically points to the fact that mainstream or not mainstream today, those lines are blurred. In fact, what is mainstream is wherever you are having people and journalists do the act of asking questions that need to be asked.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you left it at money and investment. And that's where I'm coming to you. That at the end of the day, there is the entire area and, you know, the world of cinema somewhere also looks at kitna paisa lagta hai, kitna paisa aaya. Money becomes a big narrative. In that world, to be able to create what you have as the female collective with Amazon Prime, which is as mainstream as it can get, or in your earlier roles also, how do you get that conviction into a larger room that there's nothing called women-focused cinema, that cinema by women, for women, with women is mainstream cinema and can make money? So how do you have that narrative, and how do you get more and more people to sort of follow you into something like this? And that really is going to be the last question because I have glaring eyes on me now.
I'm going to keep it short. I think